Hello again and welcome to another Black Templar Friday video. Oh, nice stretch. It's the end of the week. It's another hard week at the grind, at work, at school, whatever you do. And now it's time for the weekend. And before we go into the weekend, let's have a nice relaxing Friday morning, afternoon, wherever you get around to watch the video. Nice relaxing Mordian Glory video just to round off the week. After doing some intense tactics discussions, we've covered this week, we've talked about, difference between toughness 8, toughness 7 vehicles, we've talked about, flamers, we've had hopefully, I'll have had time to put the battle report up this week. It's been a bit of a busy week this week. But now it's time for some nice sort of just relaxing end of week stream of consciousness bullshit video about the Black Templars. So, where are we up to the Black Templars? It's been, to be honest, guys, it's been a bit of a slow week. I have just been like a good little neophyte. I have just been doing my duties and painting up lots and lots of Templars. Haven't got any pictures yet because I haven't got any more that I've finished. Technically, in theory, I've actually gone backwards in painting slightly. I'll explain what I mean. Basically, so when I painted the first few guys, I put those videos up last Friday, and put the picture up last Friday, and what I realised is I'd made made one mistake and one intentional design choice. The one mistake was the sergeant I had, the sword brother of the squad. I had painted his shoulder pads incorrectly. I realised now that sword brother shoulder pads are meant to be red and black. And other Templars are meant to be sort of white and black. So but I didn't want to, the guy with the guy I showed with the combi melter and the beaky hat and the power sword. But I didn't really want to start painting over those shoulder pads because they were actually some of the best white, crispest white that I actually managed to get. So what I ended up having to do is it was easier for me to take off his combi bolter and give him a bolt pistol instead, and then give his combi bolter to a new Marine with a power sword, and paint him up to look like a sword brother instead. So I feel kind of bad because he was one of my favourite sergeants, and he's kind of been demoted, but not really. It's more of a case of he is now just a power sword initiate, and he never really used his combi melter. So hopefully it won't make a huge difference. But yeah, it's going to be, obviously I'm putting a lot of personality into these guys. At the end of the day, they are just models, but you do get a bit of an emotional attachment. It does feel a bit weird taking one weapon off one guy and giving it to another guy, But we'll see how it goes. So that was the first thing. And the reason why I've kind of gone backwards in terms of completed models, because technically the only complete models I have now are 10 neophytes. The Marines that I showed last time are now no longer completed. And the reason for this is because every single one of them, if you're facing towards them, every single one of them, the right shoulder pad was glued in, but the left shoulder pad wasn't, and you could take that off. And the reason I did that is I was waiting for my Black Templar upgrade kit to arrive, and that meant I would have lots and lots of shoulder pads painted up already. I didn't have to sort of wait around. But now basically I've had to take the right hand shoulder pad off every single one of them and replace it with a Black Templar upgrade kit shoulder pad, which means I've all got a load of just base coated black shoulder pads at the moment. And I am just working my way through batch painting just 10 or so of those shoulder pads. The Black Templar ones. It takes me ages, just so you guys sort of understand my process, why it's taken me so long to paint these guys up. Because when it comes to Guardsmen, I was able, when I was redoing my Guardsmen, which I've recently, before I got the Templars, I just redid 80 Guardsmen in about 2 weeks. Yeah, literally. Because I don't really paint my Guardsmen to the same standard because they're just conscripts at the end of the day. I was just repainting my Cadians where all the paint was flaking off them. So I was just laying the paint on so thick. I was like, one coat, that's all I want to do. Just to cover up where the old paint's showing through. So I was able to get 5 Guardsmen done every night. And I just did 5 Guardsmen every night for 2 and a bit weeks. and I just got 80 guards. I'm just done. Now, after like 3 weeks, I've got some scouts done, but probably need some extra bits on there, and I haven't got a single marine done because it takes me about. I am watching TV at the same time, but it takes me about 30 minutes, maybe an hour, sometimes to do a shoulder pad. It can take me up to an hour to do a shoulder pad, depending on how much detail there is, because I am using incredibly watered down ceramite white from Games Workshop. Literally, it takes about a minimum of 8 to 10 layers of this paint put on painstakingly. And I'm trying to stay within the lines. I mean, I've gone out of the lines a little bit, but I'm trying to stay within the lines where I have less tidying up to do later. And it's just, I've spent pretty much this whole week with my spare time. I've been playing online games a bit more as well, just because I don't want to get burned out on the Templar. So I've been spacing out my my painting with a bit of computer gaming. And but yeah, it literally I'll do 1 or 2 shoulder pads completed in a night, kind of thing, or 1 or 2. You know, it's not maybe it's not quite that bad. I've got into a bit of a pattern with it now. Maybe I'm down to about half an hour per shoulder pad. But if I do an hour or 2 hours painting, that's just me doing 2 or 3 shoulder pads. I've broken it up by doing some power weapons as well. So I've got I've tried not to have it so every power weapon is completely unique, but I'm also trying to make it where the power weapons are. Each one's got a slightly different colour, but maybe not each one. I think that basically I'm having sort of 2 or 3, or I'm having about 4. Sorry, not making any sense here. I'm having about 5 unique colours on the power weapons. So I've got the one that I've done is I do 2 layers for my power swords. I've got 2 power swords, and on each power sword I did 2 layers of Mephiston red, and then I washed it, I think, 3 times with Carroburg Crimson to make it really dark, and then I edge highlighted it again with Mephiston red, and then I've got a power sword and a power axe where I did Macragge blue on both. I did 2 layers of Macragge blue, and then I did 2 layers of the blue wash, like Drakenhof Nightshade, and then I edge highlighted that. And then I've got my set of lightning claws. I've got 2 power swords and scabbards, so they don't need colours yet. And then I've got a set of lightning claws, which I did 2 thin layers of white, and then I washed over it with Drakenhof Nightshade, and they look really badass. And then the final power sword that I've got, I did Cabalite Green, and then I did 2 layers of Cabalite Green, and then I washed that with, I believe it was 2 washes of Drakenhof Nightshade, and then edge highlighted again with Cabalite Green. So that's, yeah, so you can see that's the amount of effort that I'm putting into my power weapons for my, like, Templars. Whenever I did power weapons on my guard, it was it was a base coat, obviously, 1 layer of pretty thick silver, and then a base wash of Northern Oil, because I never wanted them to look overly like power weapons in case I wanted to use them as just close combat weapons on my sergeants. So yeah, you can see the difference, the level of. I'm not saying I'm the greatest painter ever, and these Black Templars aren't going to come out like Golden Demon standard, but they're probably some of the best models I've ever painted, and they are. It's like the evolution of a gamer. As tabletop gamers, we evolve constantly. So, you know, those models that we first put paint on, you know, we try and paint the eyes, so you've got 2 big white splodges with like big black dots in the middle for your eyes, and the eyes take up half the head, and it's like an anime character. You know, that's, you know, what we all try and, when we first try and paint eyes, that's what we do. You know, and it's all too thick, and we don't thin the paints, and it's all that. That's, you know, for the longest time, that's, you know, for like years and years, that's just how I painted my guard. I just put what, you know, I didn't base I would say nearly all my Mordian infantry. It's really bad. A lot of my Mordian infantry, I didn't base coat it. I put 1 layer onto bare pewter. And you can't really tell the difference in the battle reports because I haven't got the greatest camera. And you can't really tell the difference on the tabletop because I've noticed with guard, like, it's kind of like this big. Your enemy doesn't look at individual models. He never picks up an individual model and looks at it. He just goes, "Oh wow, look at that! That's a whole Mordian guard army." It's like the cumulative effect of just having a full painted 200 infantry Mordian guard army. Your opponent tends to not look at the individual models. They just tend to see, "Wow, that's a really cool army," you know. Whereas with Templars, especially my smaller points games that I've been playing, I am trying to make them look as best as I can. Because how basically in terms of my painting in the last 5 or 6 years, I'd say I do my guard pretty badly. I batch paint them. I could smash a squad out in a day if I have to, no problem. And then my scions came along, and my Arbites. I know we've gone slightly off topic here, but we're coming back to Black Templars now. This is my evolution as a sort of a painter. And my scions and my Arbites, I learnt the trick of, like, you choose a base coat for your army that can be like the majority of the colour. So that's why all my scions and my Arbites are like mostly black. And then this is where I learned about the beauty of using washes, because for the cloth, I put the Macragge blue on, and then I washed it with Norn oil. And I was like, wow, these guys look amazing. And I learned, you know, wash the skin with I wash my skin, wash my skin with fucking, you know, soap. No, I washed the skin of my models, skin colour with, what do you call it? What's it called? Sepia? I can't remember what it's called. Something sepia. Seraphim sepia. That's what I do. A very thin layer of that, just to bring the cracks off. But I was doing that on all my Arbites, and I was like, whoa, this looks amazing. But really, it's just like base coated black with a tiny bit of blue and a bit of fine detail. And then now doing my Black Templars, it's like, yeah, there is again base coating black. That's obviously a good base coat, but there's so much like different colours. You've got whites, you've got reds, you've got all different power swords. There's a lot of detail on the Marine models that I'm not used to experiencing. And so that's why it's taken me so long to paint them, and that's why I'm taking a long time. And I'm using multiple different washes on each model. I'm using multiple different layers. You know, my Arbites were still one layer models pretty much. You know, I'd base coat, blue Macragge on the cloth, wash, done. Whereas now, this is the first time I've painted models where I've done like 10 layers or something. Really, really thin layers. Put it this way, guys, until my Black Templars, I didn't thin my paints. I wasn't a particularly good painter. And now, this is me taking my time. And that's why I'm really falling in love with the Black Templars. Like, I love my guard to bits, and I keep getting urges to be like, oh yeah, let's get out, you know, let's put a platoon together, or go down, you know, when I go down to the club and I use my guard, I'm like, you know, I do enjoy using Imperial Guard. I love that feel of like, right, first platoon, you go and take this objective, second platoon, hold the line, third platoon, move up around the flank. You know, I do love that feel of using like an actual army when you're using Imperial Guard. But with my Black Templars, I'm loving the character of the army, these zealous nut jobs that have, you know, you've got to bring the enemy you've got to put the enemy to the sword. You know, you've got to duel them. You've got to accept any duel, no matter the odds. You know, and I really enjoy like the feel when I'm playing my Templars, when it's like, you know, I've got a 1 wound chaplain. He's just been strafed by an assault cannon because of my bad positioning. But there's an enemy captain ahead of him, you know, and he's got to go. You know, what would the guard commander do? He'd sit back, surround himself with guards, and make sure that he didn't get strafed again by the assault cannon. Not the Black Templar chaplain. He's going to go, and even though he's on 1 wound, he is going to charge the enemy captain, and he is going to beat the shit out of him. And I had that in my first game. It didn't quite work, but it worked in my second game, which I'll talk about in a minute. Where my chaplain just charged in against the enemy captain and just put 3 wounds on him. He used a bolt pistol for 1 and put 2 wounds on him with his Crozius Arcanum. And it was just awesome. And the captain then actually failed to wound the chaplain. And the chaplain couldn't quite finish him off in the next round of combat, and then the captain killed him. But it's like, Captain Chaplain. Sorry, it's probably a bit confusing. But it was just awesome. Just this like, what is the right thing to do? And what is the Templar thing to do? And that's what I'm really experiencing with my Templars. But yeah, that's basically where I'm up to. I'll tell you, you know, that's how I'm painting them. I've got 20 Marines on my paint desk at the moment. None of them are fully finished. They're all looking quite good though. I've almost done all the shoulder pads. I think before I recorded this video, I just finished the third 5-man squad. So I've got the last 5-man squad to do, and I've already done the Sword Brother, and I've already done one of the shoulder pads. They've all had one shoulder pad fully completed, and 3 of them I've got shoulder pads haven't been started at all, and one of them's got a shoulder pad that has had 1 wash, so that's going to need, like, you know, basically I've got 4 more Marines to do before I finish the shoulder pads. Bit of shoulder pad episode today, episode shoulder pad I should say. But yeah, so they're coming along. I've got 10 neophytes fully done. I've got 10 neophytes not started yet. Just done. I think I've just done the silver and the knives. Not washed it though. And then I've got 20 Marines, which are about 50% done. On average, they're about 50% done. But yeah, so enough about the painting and the modelling and the progress. Enough about that. Let's talk about how the Templars are performing on the battlefield. So, I talked about last week how I had my first game with Templars against Blood Angels and I won. Well, my brother, he sent me a message, was like, I want a rematch. I want a rematch. I know you've got a Crusader now. You can do 1,000 points. Let's go. So I did an 1,000-point training exercise, as my brother has been calling it. What we've sort of, the fluff that we've come up with the army so far is, whilst the Crusade is being put together, whilst, you know, the Black Templars are building up these 100 Marines to launch the Crusade with, the Blood Angels they're like training them up. You know, they're doing joint exercises with the Blood Angels so that they can get lots and lots of experience. So that's why all my battles at the moment are against Blood Angels. It's because basically I don't like playing against people. I don't like playing against the majority of people without painted models. But against my brother, you know, it's my fucking brother, he doesn't care. So I don't mind using like unpainted models, slightly, you know, maybe not fully finished models with like arms and arms missing. I don't mind doing that against him because he doesn't mind, and it means I get to learn which weapons are good and which weapons are bad, kind of thing. So we had another training exercise against the Blood Angels today. Not today. Beginning of the week it was, and it was on Tuesday. And what his army was, he had 2 tactical squads in Razorbacks, and both with assault cannons, and both tactical squads were 5-man with bolters. Scout sniper squad with camo cloaks. Sanguinary guard with 3 big swords, 2 big axes, and 2 death masks on the axe guys. He had Mephiston, Lord of Death. He had a Terminator captain, and he had a unit of assault marines, 5-man assault marines. I think that was it. Yeah. That was it. Don't think he had a 3rd Razorback, so I think that was it. So what he added on to his 750-point list was he added Mephiston, and he upgraded his captain, and he took an assault squad, and he dropped his Sanguinary Priest. That's what he took for his 250 points, basically. For my 1,000-point list, I had to drop 6 neophytes. So I had 2 10-man Crusader squads on foot, both with plasma melter, and then one was a combi plasma, one was a melter gun, one was a combi melter, one was a plasma gun. I both had 2 power swords, so I had my two sort of foot-stocking Crusader squads, and then I had 2 7-man Crusader squads, both with 2 neophytes and 5 initiates. One with double lightning claw, power sword, and plasma gun. One with power sword, combi flamer. And they were riding in a Land Raider Crusader with just the assault cannon and hurricane bolters, no multi-melter, no storm bolter. And they had the chaplain with them, and they had the Emperor's Champion. So yeah, basically I just added a Land Raider Crusader, upgraded my lieutenant to the Emperor's Champion, and dropped a few neophytes. Dropped enough neophytes to make it, basically. The mission we were playing was the same as last time. We rolled again. We got Emperor's Will, or Secure and Control. basically captured the flag with each had one objective. And I got to go first because I only had 3 drops. I had the Land Raider Crusader full of everything, and I had my 2 squads. And that was a real eye-opener to me. I was like, holy shit, I could easily get this down to the point where I only had 2 drops. You know, I could have 2 Land Raider Crusaders at 1,000 points with chock full of Crusader squads. And that'd be amazing. But anyway, I haven't, you know, not doing that. I'm more going for Black Tide. I did feel a bit guilty using a Land Raider at 1,000 points. It's kind of a small points level to bring a vehicle that's quite so durable. You know, it'd be kind of like turning up with an Imperial Knight at 1,000 points. You know, that's what. But my brother insisted he wanted to play against the Crusader. He'd never played against one before, so I was like, okay. So basically, I did the same plan as last time. I said I'm going to go all out. I want to take his objective, and at the end of the game, basically, what I want to try and have is his objective, and he doesn't control my objective. I just want to go all out. And that worked. I'm not going to do a turn by turn again, probably because I can't fully remember it. But basically, my 2 squads moved up round. Oh, we were playing table corners, by the way. My 2 Crusader squads moved round to the right. My Crusader moved round to the left. I unloaded everything from the Crusader Land Raider into his Assault Marine squad, which he deployed slightly too close. I'd say it was an error in judgment. I don't think he quite realised how fast the Land Raider could get there. So I moved forward, unloaded everything into his Assault Marine squad, and then charged him, because you can do that now. You can move and shoot and charge with vehicles. Charged him with the Crusader, and then got with the Frag Assault Launchers, I got a 4+, so they went off, and then I rolled a 6, so I did 3 mortal wounds, finished off the assault squad, and got first blood. That was a real eye-opener. That is a tactic which I will be able to use, I reckon, in most tournament games, because most people won't see it coming the first time. Even though it gave me food for thought, because I was thinking, I love the idea of the Black Tide of 100 Marines, but I could definitely see myself getting behind having 2 Land Raider Crusaders full of Crusader squads. They're like the fucking Crusader a Crusader for you, Crusader, so you could crusade whilst you crusade. But yeah, and then I shot. You know, I advanced with everything else. His turn 1, he managed to badly maul one of my Crusader squads down to like 3 guys, with his Sanguinary Guard and his shooting. In response, I was able to dogpile his Sanguinary Guard with 2 more Crusader squads and the Chaplain, whilst one of my other Crusader squads went off against his scouts, and my Empress Champion duelled his captain and killed him. I learned very quickly how good the Empress Champion is at killing other characters. Johnny Lee's captain didn't even get time to strike. I got 5 attacks, hitting on 2s with rerolls, hit with all, wounded on 3s with reroll, wounded with 4. He got a 5+ invuln, which stopped one of them. It was very statistical actually. And then I got 3 D3 wounds, and I got like 7 wounds or something on the captain. It was like 2 3s and a 1 or something. I got just brutalized the captain, just destroyed him. It was kind of brutal. The rest of the game, basically, his Sanguinary Guard were actually, I was doing fine, but the fact they've got 2 wounds, the fact that I was only really attacking them, because I basically only was really attacking them with 2 squads, you know, even with my rerolls, his Sanguinary Guard, he had Mephiston with them as well. I think Mephiston, he learned from last time, and he made Mephiston his warlord, so the Sanguinary Guard were getting a whole bunch of rerolls. And what actually happened was, his Sanguinary Guard, after 3 or 4 rounds of combat, he still had 2 Sanguinary Guard left, and Mephiston, but Mephiston had taken 2 wounds, and I only had 5 Crusaders, including neophytes, and a chaplain. And it was like, oh my god, his Sanguinary Guard are going to win this. I actually thought I had them banged to rights. I was like, lightning claws in there, 2, 3 power swords in there. There's no way. But just struggled. And he was, getting so many hits off thanks to Mephiston, so many wounds. It was just crazy. He's wounding me on 3s. I'm wounding him on 4s because he's got axes. I've got just power swords. He's got 2 wounds. You know, he technically had like 10 guys plus Mephiston. That's 15 wounds in that unit. And I charged him with only like 23 wounds. But he's got like, what, 2 plus save. Anyway, long story short, once the Emperor's champion had finished off the captain, he spent a turn getting over there. But then he managed to get into combat. He murdered Mephiston before Mephiston could even have a chance to strike. And then the chaplain and the rest of Crusaders and the Emperor's champion were able to finish off the Sanguinary Guard. But what came out of that fight was like 2 Crusaders, a 1-wound chaplain, and the Emperor's champion. And what had gone into that fight had been about 20 Crusaders, a chaplain, and the Emperor's champion. And they'd face off against 6 models. So I now have a new respect for Sanguinary Guard. When used properly, those guys are fucking brutal. They're really, really powerful. All you Blood Angel players out there, tasty combo you want to consider: make Mephiston your Warlord and put the Sanguinary Guard with them. And then take Dante and put Dante in your fire base, so that you've basically got a Death Star which is re-rolling hits, and you've got everyone re-rolling hits around Dante. Just food for thought there. That's a combo my brother's going to be using against me when I get up to like 2,000 points. Yeah, anyway, after I'd finished the Sanguinary Guard, what my Land Raider Crusader had been doing this whole time is just constantly shooting and charging and shooting and charging and forcing back my brother's tactical squads and Razorbacks. And it had taken quite a few wounds at this point, but it was still going strong. I was just really lucky with my Frag Assault launchers. I just kept doing damage with them. I don't think I failed a 4+ for the Frag Assault launcher. It was just really good. I used a command point once or twice, but you know. So because of that, my Land Raider Crusader, I took everything else that I had left over. I had like half Crusader squad and everything else. I just took that over to sent my last 2. Basically, I sent everything over, cleared him off his objective. At the end of the game, he had 1 Razorback left over, and I managed to tie up in combat with the Emperor's champion, so it couldn't go off and take my. So it couldn't shoot me. And yeah, it was another victory for the Templars there, guys. Another victory. The Blood Angels had a Razorback left at the end. The Black Templars had 2 Crusaders sitting on the home objective, 5 Crusaders sitting on the enemy objective, the Chaplain and the Land Raider Crusader just milling about, and the Emperor's champion. So I had a little bit left over, but I'd lost something like 30. I lost about 30 guys. Which, you know, I lost more guys than the Blood Angels, but still, you know, held on. I lost more wounds on my Land Raider Crusader, I think, and still held on, you know. So it was crazy. It was a crazy battle. But yeah, that's 2 for 2. Interesting, you know, 2 for 2. Interesting. The Black Templars seem to be doing well. My theory about massed infantry, you know, and you know, even in small points game, massed Marines, massed foot Marines, does seem to be paying off, because you've got to remember, my Crusaders were only inside the Land Raider for 1 turn. After that, they were foot slogging it the whole time. So, you know, it was still, I'm getting the feeling that, you know, Black Tide, it might not be super competitive, but it's definitely, you know, against like an Imperial Knight army, it's going to struggle. But I am still getting the feeling that Black Tide could be competitive. You know, a lot of people are struggling to deal with like 100 Marines, 100 Guardsmen. I wonder how they're going to feel if they have to struggle against 100 Marines. You know, it's going to be interesting. I'm going when I get up to 2,000 points, I'm going to or 1,500 points. I'm going to start playing some other armies. I'm going to start, you know, there's World Eaters down at the club. There's Dark Elder. For now, I think it's going to be a case of I'm going to be facing off against Blood Angels. If I can convince my brother to use my Chaos or my Guard, I'll face off against that, and I'll also try and face off against his Tau. But yeah, that's it, guys. That's, you know, another long, sort of relaxing, just bit of a bullshit video about the Black Templars, but that's where we're up to. I'm hoping next week, I know it's been a bit of a bore, I want no images of the army this week. I'm hoping, although this is a nice piece of artwork, I'm hoping for next week, I'm hoping to have lots and lots of pictures to show you guys, and I may, if I have chance, if I have time, I may even have a Black Templar versus Blood Angels battle report available. see how that goes. That's something to look forward to. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys next time.